get things going even before the mulligan. And with the pickup of Kazakus as well, he has truly paddled his way into a very nice starting hand, and Roger is going to have to get some truly disgusting cards to bring this back.
Pretty
and
disgusting.
He kind of does do that. This is not bad at all for Roger.
Yeah, interesting to see how he navigates the coin, given that he's got Auctioneer in hand. See how slow he wants to play, because there's no hurry to assemble the coin. Well, there is. You've got 8 turns.
Right.
That's the hurry.
Yes.
But you can do Auctioneer stuff before 8 turns, so... Also, keeping the coin does enable you to go turn 7. Obvious thing.
Exactly.
Get ahead, so...
And it also allows you more disgusting combos after the Anduin comes down, because very often in this matchup, it's not just a race to Raza and Anduin, it's a race to the one-turn combo, or at the very least 20, 24 damage, something like that. That means you can just blast out your opponent, even through things like the Priest of the Feast, the Binding Heal, the Spirit Lash, all these kind of things that allow the Priest to survive the slow, gradual damage from the pew-pews of Anduin.
So Pavel... Decision time here. You want all of these cards later. You don't want to play any of them on this particular turn a lot of the time. There's not much to be gained from dropping the Cleric, because you can just get pained. You'd rather wait to like heal it up en masse, maybe get 3 or 4 cards. Yep. The Radiant Elemental's better when you're actually post-combo, if you can last that long. And the damage is irrelevant. Damage to your opponent, as you start chipping away for 6s and 7s, just doesn't influence the outcome of the game.
You're absolutely right. In the mirror, the board control is all but irrelevant. Maybe if you can get a crazy start with Radiant and Power Word Shield, as we saw against the Quest Druid in earlier games, and follow up with Kazakus for plus health, you can start considering board control route. But in the vast majority of cases, you just want to be drawing cards, getting to your Raza and Anduin, with maybe getting a bit of chip damage in the meantime.
Not the world's easiest decision here. None of those things really do anything, but he picked the first part so quick, I'm assuming it was 2 cards.
I would imagine so.
Like, we didn't even see it on the screen. We saw it, but I'm too old. I can't spot those things that quickly.
That is just, again, classic Pavel. I believe recently in China, he would make all his decisions incredibly quickly. Strangely, apart from turn 1 often, he considers that one in the tempo matchups most heavily of all, which I think is good play, because how you peter out your early resources in those games is very important. Yeah,
and you can often work out what you want to do for the first 3 turns on turn 1. If you messed up that turn, then that's when the problems happen.
But here for Pavel, the perfect potion coming into play. The 5 damage turns out to be a lot better than the transform, and obviously it was draw 2 cards as the first effect, so he's still in a fantastic spot. As for Roger, there is no ability, or there's no Raza or Anduin quite yet, so for Pavel, he just needs to be cycling through to that Raza, and he'll be in a very dominant position indeed.
Yeah, Roger's got a few pickups that will make his hand a lot better very quickly. Because his hand is so cheap, Radiant Elemental with his Auctioneer would be a thing he can do. Obviously, so he can play catch-up, but he's got to play catch-up pretty soon, because Pavel's going to start rifling through his own deck. But Roger has a very spell-heavy hand with his Auctioneer, so I wouldn't write him off just yet.
Yeah, and I like this as well from Pavel. Going for the Glimmeroo is very likely to come down on this turn, so going for Shadow Visions. You know, if he had a Circle of Healing or a Spirit Lash in his hand with the Northshire Cleric, I could consider going for some kind of a big draw option. But with this play, just getting out the highest statted minion, then following up with a Shadow Visions seems much more appropriate. Not
a lot doing there.
Well, you know, as I was saying, if he had Spirit Lash, he might consider going for some kind of a crazy draw option. And now that he's got the other Shadow Visions, he can try and find Circle of Healing, which could give him a stupid amount of draw.
Talking a stupid amount of draw, this Radiant Elemental has opened that option up to Roger in the long run.
And he's just going with the fact that he can, well, obviously not mill a card on this turn if he goes for the Radiant, but also hopefully set up for Auctioneer to just draw 4 or 5 cards on the following turn with the coin and all these cheap spells. Yeah,
these power plays that they're both trying to set up. Now, there is the Circle of Healing for Pavel, so he's going to be able to draw a load of cards if he can make space in his hand. The great thing with the Auctioneer turn that could come from Roger is the space gets made as you go. So you actually get to cycle through your deck, replacing one card with another. Pavel's got a little bit more trickery to do than that. He's got to actually empty enough space to Circle of Healing for a lot.
And this is a difficult turn indeed. I'm looking at potentially Cleric, Heal the Crab, Spirit Lash, Circle, but then you're very likely looking into overdrawing at that point, as he already has the full 10 cards in hand. So maybe, although he has the ability to go Cleric with Circle and the Spirit Lash, he might just delay a little bit and instead on this turn go for Shadow Visions, take it a little bit slower. Maybe it's not worth drawing here, but because he can guarantee himself at least 3 cards drawn here, probably a few more, I do like this line of play.
wonder if you don't ever want to slow yourself down like that. I just wondered how much he's going to do here in terms of emptying these spells on your opponent's face. But this is perfect. Take yourself to 9 cards.
Yeah.
It's the right number.
No, I really like this too, actually. I think with many other lines of play, he would get himself in a position where he's burning Holy Smite, which you don't want to be doing because you want that for the combo. If he'd gone for the hero power to heal the crab beforehand, he could have run into that position where he's just overdrawing, so he needs to dump cards. But in this line of play, he's put himself in a position where there is the ability for Roger to draw, to overdraw him by 1, actually. So maybe that could have been slightly differently sequenced by Pavel to draw 1 less card. But he's put himself in a good spot to be finding Raza and hopefully not have it mulliganed.
Yeah, if Roger was going to do anything clever there, he'd have gone for a lot of mill rather than a tiny bit. He's got his own problems. He's going to fish for his own stuff. He knows that Pavel didn't have it last turn.
Right.
Otherwise, Pavel wouldn't have gone crazy with those card draw, most likely. He'd have just started setting up combo. So he knows Pavel's missing at least 1 piece, or was.
He's looking hard for that circle of healing here, is Roger, because he knows he could mill his opponent so many cards.
If he gets
even
that,
going
he will
with the
go
silence.
For
it. Unable to find it. That would have been such a cool play if we'd seen the burn of Raza, but Roger realizing I'm not going to be able to burn my opponent's card from here on in, so just killing off the cleric means that Pavel is still in a great position in this game.
Yeah, it's really strange. You go from the situation where your opponent's cleric's hurting them to where your opponent's cleric's now a danger, so you have to actually get rid of it.
Yeah.
In the space of a few seconds. And now Pavel's still searching. Look at the deck size. They're both down to 13 cards already. They've just gone crazy going through these decks.
Pretty silly. And that's actually what I really like to see, because although Anduin was found for Pavel right at the start of the game, he's not that far ahead actually in this instance, because they're both on fairly even deck sizes. If Roger is able to find something like Raza, or basically find exactly Raza and Anduin in the next couple of cards, he will all of a sudden be in the driving seat, because he's already got Velen, he's got Mind Blast, he can just start firing off everything towards his opponent's face and start pushing for lethal.
You get some really weird games when the key cards in the bottom 1 or 2.
Right.
You get some games where one of the players just runs out of ways to win. That's why it was crucial that Pavel saves the Mind Blast and the Holy Smite earlier. They're not common, but maybe 2% of the mirror matches are decided by somebody just running out of stuff entirely because they have to use a Holy Smite to draw a card to try and race. And Pavel's actually trying to sort of dodge that situation from coming up.
And now with the Circle of Healing for Roger, he can abuse Northshire Cleric's draw ability, not for Pavel to burn his cards, but just to be able to draw himself through to that Raza and Anduin he is so desperately looking for. But with a full 10-card hand, I'm not sure if he has the ability to do so right now. And if he's going to go for it, he has to start thinking very quickly indeed.
Yeah, this is something that no matter how many times you play this deck, you still have to count very carefully not to mess up. And he's going to wait until next turn to do it, just so he doesn't risk any sort of rope mess up. I'm pretty sure the play was there, and I'm pretty sure he's experienced enough to realise if I try and work this out, I'm going to quite often make a mistake here. Let's just do it next turn.
I think this is an instance where if we had double or triple the turn timer, there would have been a different play here. But he realised probably correctly, I will probably mess this up if I go for this. So I'm just going to go for the good enough play of playing out these guys. I'm still drawing cards, and I can go for Northshire Circle on the following turn. Still keep up my draw ability fairly well in the meantime.
Yeah, Roger's been a serious player on the scene for a long time. He knows better. He was winning Open Cups in 2014.
Right.
So he's got the experience to say, okay, sometimes just admit you've sort of gone too slowly or whatever you've done wrong on that turn and just deal with it. Now it's Pavel's turn to try and work out what on earth to do with this hand.
It's a tough one. Something like Anduin coming down now feels like you could go for it because of the fact that there's no auctioneer on board that you have to kill off. But at the same time, going for the Psychic Scream here, while it's not denying the ability for Raza to activate, as many players will post on their Twitter pages showing, they played Raza like an idiot and it didn't activate. In this particular instance, it's just denying the draw of those cards. Maybe it's a couple of extra cards away now. Yeah,
and also it's like just buying Pavel a turn. He can do it again next turn if the setup is correct. And just keep buying those turns because he knows he's getting obviously closer than Roger is to this combo.
So for Roger here, still no Raza or Anduin in hand at the moment. Could draw 3-4 extra cards right now, I believe, if wanted. And it looks like Roger is going to be going for it.
Yeah, he spent last turn working this out. We know that from how he played the last turn. And now it's just about not overdrawing. He's got to start picking up bits in a minute, like he's nearly got no cards left.
Yeah, once it another circle of healing as well. He could draw. I think he could actually literally draw his entire deck over the next couple of turns, but obviously that would burn a whole bunch of cards, so it's not quite worth it. And given that he has seen the circle of healing already come down for Pavel, he feels a little bit more comfortable about leaving this out. But it's scary having an Acolyte and a Cleric on the board. I think there might be the ability for a couple of burns here for Pavel.
Double Loot Hoarder going into Roger's deck. There's 2 Loot Hoarders in that deck. Now he's got to draw either one of those as well as the combo.
Okay, this has suddenly got a lot harder for Roger, and this was really nice from Pavel. I was looking at the overdraw options here, but this kind of does the same thing, because it means Raza is really far away, and even if you draw it, it's not activated until the other Loot Hoarder is drawn.
So Pavel's had some weird turn of play, like weird set of turns, but making sure he uses the available resources to him, because Psychic Scream doesn't do much in this matchup other than that sort of blocking effect.
But now for Pavel, I think it is time to let rip with Anduin. You don't really need to be saving the Battle Cry effect, because for Velen, you know, if he's playing Velen before the combo comes down, great. You just kill it off with the pings anyway, and you're probably in a great spot. And he needs to start getting in those hero powers. One could even argue he should have gone for it on some of the previous turns to start getting in that repetitive damage with the hero power. But in this instance, I think it's perfectly good to start throwing it down and making sure you're getting the value out of each of the cards you're playing.
Yeah, you might as well. Getting your opponent's board cleared and getting them down to sort of 24, 26 is very different to 30. If they can't get to 30, then you can kill them with OTK so much easier. And now it's one Anduin apiece.
It is indeed, and I believe it is probably going to be coming down for Roger here, as he gives me a small heart attack before I realise he is, in fact, already has the Orkanai on board, so it doesn't make a difference which way he sequences the hero power. But for both players, trying to find Raza as quickly as possible, it's working in Pavel's benefit in 2 ways, as he is further into his deck, or I suppose 3 ways. He still has draw, and there's also that double Loot Hoarder in Roger's deck that he still needs to find.
Yeah, no, it's just doing 2 purposes. First of all, he's got that double Loot Hoarder, which is just a nightmare because he can't play Raza. And secondly, there's just 2 Loot Hoarders in the way.
Yeah, exactly. And you maybe can kill them off.
Shooting them and just wasting your time while Pavel's busy actually advancing his board state.
Exactly. And he is advancing his board state and also just keeping up with the draw, as he does now find Raza, and he's got a tremendous game plan after that as well, even with just Prophet Velen, Mind Blast, Holy Smite for 28 damage. I believe he will be in a great spot to just start pushing.
That's the number.
I've heard that is indeed, yeah, to maybe just start pushing lethal over the next couple of turns.
Roger, with the Lyra and the Auctioneer, we don't see that all the time, but it's becoming slowly more and more common, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to go about it. We see certain
green. It's not yellow.
That is not a yellow Raza. I pray to God that Roger realises that. I think he will.
I think the fact they both went on the same turn means the chance of a mistake is nearly 0. If they're going on different turns, then it's easier to mess up. But they actually went in together.
Oh my God, is he going to play it?
Whoa.
Oh my God, I'm going to... Does he not realise? It's also worth pointing out... Oh my God, he's going to do it. He's going to do it! He plays it! Raza's down, and it doesn't reduce the hero power! Pavel clapping to his opponent as well! Oh my God.
Pavel has framed AHQ.Roger.
That has to be the first big tournament Raza that just did not activate. That is absolutely absurd. And Pavel has just completely outplayed his opponent.
And... Why is it always Pavel? Sportingly taking it by laughing at his opponent.
He's just an absolute god. This is amazing. Oh. Poor Roger.
He's going to a Loot Hoarder now, isn't he?
That would have been the most beautiful poetic justice I could have seen.
So Roger's now got to find a way to win by never having a machine gun effect against somebody who is... I mean, this needs to be one heck of a Lyra, is all I can say to that.
It has to be double Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, some nonsense like that. But even then, the Shadow Word pain is already there. Pavel just cannot lose this game.
It was a hard mistake, mate. Like, the second those 2 Loot Hoarders went in together, it was like, hey, be aware.
I mean, I hate to say it, but come on, we spotted it, Neil. Surely Roger should have realised it. Come on. And now, while Pavel does not have lethal on this turn, he's correctly realising that face is the place for all these hero powers. Shadow Word Pain will do a great job as well of taking out the Lyra. And in the next couple of turns, I just don't think there's any way that Roger can stop himself from dying.
I think this is where Roger's supposed to call an admin and say that his Raza is bugged.
Yeah, the game's broken.
So Pavel looks like he's almost certainly going through. I can't see how he won't be.
This is amazing. I have loved Pavel's play throughout so far. That shuffle of Loot Hoarder, I was expecting it to just be a delaying of Raza as opposed to a complete cancelling.
And don't forget, Roger is here in front of a pretty large home crowd.
That's right.
Who have paid to cheer him on. So he might need an escort from the stage.
What a way to go out. And if you're going to be doing it against anyone, Pavel, you just know he's going to be clapping, laughing at you. He is never going to let this one go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whenever he sees you. It's not just now, it's like every time he sees you afterwards.
And I believe this is now going to be lethal available for Pavel with the Velen Mind Blast and Holy Smite to close out this game. What a way to end this series.
Yeah, Roger showed all that experience early in the game by taking his time with the Northshire Cleric when he was going to possibly make a mistake.
Right.
And then he did that thing that he did. I don't even know how to describe it anymore.
It's too good. It's just too good.
Wow, you're a mean man.
I mean, come
Or
on.
mean man, one of the two.
Yeah, I think a mixture of the two. But, I mean, this is what you like to see. Not that Roger made a mistake necessarily, but Pavel deserved to win. He played better than his opponent. The Quest Druid, I actually kind of like what he's doing with this build of the deck. You see the pros whispering about Quest Druid saying, you know, maybe it's the best build